this group. I think because it's been 2 weeks, we'll do a quick review. But before we do that, open with a prayer. Dan, would you like to do that for us? Can they hear you with?
I think so.
Can you hear Dan?
Can you guys hear me from across the room?
A little bit, yeah.
All right, Father, thank you for today. Thank you that we get to do this again and pray that we would all benefit. Our goal is to improve for the sake of your kingdom and the sake of our own lives and relationships. So thank you for that. And we pray that we would learn and that lots of people would watch online as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Those of you who are here with us live, in person or online. I know there were a number of people who had planned to be here, but things came up and they couldn't. And one of them is Anna, but she very kindly made a little video for us, so she'll be with us on screen later, as well as Linda Langdon. She was going to present something, but she hurt her back and she can hardly move right now. So I have her notes. I have her notes, so I picked up her notes and I'll just read them for her. But let's just review. Do both of you have a notebook?
I do.
Yeah.
You both do? Okay. So on the first page is basically a summary of the total load concept, I described the last time. Because there are so many different factors. I hear music.
Yeah, I'm trying to see
Where did the music come from?
I was wondering.
You know what? It's coming from me within the program. Didn't mean to do that.
Okay. I thought maybe Elaine was rocking it over there.
I thought there was ice cream coming or something.
I mean, it's not bad having music in the background. I just wasn't expecting it. Okay. All right, let's carry on. So the total load concept, when unexpected things happen, like music suddenly starts playing, or the pastor gets sick and you're supposed to be doing something in an hour, like life happens. We have stresses we don't expect, but then we also have decisions that we can make, which will either increase or decrease our total load of our health. We're talking about our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. A lot of it is in our control. And we talked about the different parts last time, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and how they are interrelated. So it's one big package, really. Some things lean more towards the physical, like what we're going to talk about today, nutrition, and some things more towards the mental and emotional, such as stress and crises and meditation and music, and some things more towards the spiritual, our choice of, are we going to dwell on the things of God or not? Are we going to spend time with people who love him or not? But they do all interconnect, because if we don't feel well physically, personally, my mental abilities are much reduced. I get brain fog and I just want to lay down. I don't get things done that I would like to do, and then that bothers me. And one of the things I certainly don't do is deep Bible studies. I do listen to the Bible while I'm laying there because I don't feel good, but we're limited when we don't feel well physically. So that's why we're starting with that. And I introduced an acronym last time, not last week, called the New Start. I don't know how well you can see that from online, but it's an acronym coined by the Seventh-day Adventists, who are very good at emphasizing the importance of health, just as this group is. And so I thought I'd borrow their acronym with a couple of changes. So each letter stands for a different area of health, even though they are all intertwined. The first is nutrition, which is the one we're going to talk about today. The E stands for exercise, W for water, S for sunshine, T for thoughts and trust in God. This is the one that the Seventh-day Adventists, they have at the bottom. It's trust in God. I added the thoughts, but I think it should be in the middle because it's central to everything, I believe. A stands for air, R for rest, and T for temperance, which, as Dave pointed out to me, most people don't know what that word means. It means, go ahead.
It's very important to me because when I was a teenager, Fonthill was a dry community, and I actually did a paper for the Temperance Society of Fonthill.
Ooh, yeah, it's called it was called Temperanceville. And it was called that because alcohol was not allowed. Is that true?
Alcohol was not allowed. No LCBO in Fonthill for a long, long, long time.
Wow. I didn't know that about it. I thought they were just sort of laid back people. Oh, that's interesting. So tell us what temperance is, Elaine.
Well, it's not taking any alcohol or anything that's unnatural into your body, I guess. I haven't really looked at it for a long, long time, but it's being very moderate in what you eat and drink.
That's true. That's true. And what the Seventh-day Adventists add to that definition is it's not just moderation, it's abstinence,
Well,
abstaining from the things that are harmful to
Yes.
the body,
Yes.
and being moderate with the things that are good for the body, because too much of a good thing is still not a good thing.
Yes.
So it's those two things. So we'll get to that when we get to the end. We're going to move through these one or two at a time. I think today nutrition is, because it's quite a large topic, we'll probably take the whole session today. Exercise we'll do next time, and then we'll just move into these as we sort of run out of things to talk about on one subject. We'll move into the next ones, and we should be able to finish that within the 6 weeks that we had allotted. So what I'd like to show you is my plan for the next many weeks, which will involve going through each of these subjects. And the first thing we're going to do for each topic is we're going to take up your homework. You did do your homework, right?
Of course.
Well, even if you didn't, that's okay. But in your notebook, there's a page, I think it's the 3rd page, with the title Nutrition. And all the pages that have these topics of the acronym are the same. It starts with Bible verses or famous quotes, and there's a blank. So if you can think of a Bible verse or a famous quote that has to do with that topic, then make a note of it to share at the next meeting. Questions, comments, or tips, anything you want to say about it or ask about it. So we'll share all that first at the beginning of each session, and then we'll move on through a discussion time, which I think we'll do that after. Let's do this part first. So who has a Bible verse or a famous quote that they'd like to share about nutrition? Anybody who did their homework? Dan is thinking deeply.
Yeah, because there's something like at the tip of my tongue, but I can't. I'll think of it.
Yeah.
I'll cheat
I know the feeling. It's like you know it, but it's not ready to come out yet. Okay. Well, I've got a couple here. One is a quote by Hippocrates, who I understand was in the 5th or 6th century. It was a long time ago. He's the one who wrote the Hippocratic Oath, which doctors used to take before they became doctors. I don't know if they still do that. Do no harm. But he said, let food be thy medicine. So, and it is true that in scripture, there are a few places, I didn't have the notes for this part, but that the medicine, that the plants that God gives us are for medicine. They're to be used that way for the service of man. So the verse I have is Genesis 1:29, and this is in the NIV. This is God speaking to Adam and Eve. He says, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and the birds of the air, and the creatures that move on the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Every other day, he said, God saw what he made, and it was good. But this time, he said it was very good. This was the 6th day. And he's given humans and animals fruits, and green plants with its seeds for food. That's what he says. So there's a verse at the beginning, and it's nice to focus at the beginning, the first 2 chapters of Genesis or the last 2 chapters of Revelation, the bookends of the Bible, show us God's ideal. The first 2 chapters of Genesis come before the fall, before sin enters the picture. And the last 2 chapters of Revelation describe what it's to be like in the kingdom of God when sin has been completely dealt with. So as someone we know, Jim Barton says, you know, at the beginning, the first 2 chapters, then sin comes in, and the whole stuff in the middle is how God fixes it. And then we see the last 2 chapters at the end, and that's when it's all fixed. So that's what the Bible is. It tells us how God fixed it. Okay. Oh, there's one more quote, and I don't know who said it. It says, "To eat is human, but to digest is divine." Because we can eat all we want, but that doesn't mean we're going to digest it and absorb it. So that's a key part of what we'll be talking about today. All right. So any questions, comments, or tips does anybody have about nutrition? There must be a few. Tips, comments, questions, any thoughts, things that you'd like to discuss or just mention to help others. This is a support group to help each other.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, you know, you were raised and were taught things at school and whatnot, or absorbed through media or whatever. But I'm curious to know
is when you're eating a carbohydrate, you need to eat a protein with it so that bring up your high blood sugar.
Can you say that again, Lynn?
Yeah.
You cut out a little bit. Oh, she cut out altogether.
Oh, we lost her. Oh, no.
Generally, my question is, you know, I would like a refresher on what exactly is the appropriate amount of each kind of food that we should be eating. And are there myths associated with what we were taught growing up, maybe?
Oh, I'm sure there are, depending on what you were taught. Yes.
Yeah, like, well, you know, like certain amounts of grains, certain amount of fruits and vegetables, certain amounts, you know, all these certain things. And it's like,
Yeah.
It's just been a long time since I've
Yeah.
thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Dan's question is, what's the ideal diet, really?
That changes over time, right?
Well, the Canada Food Guide has changed.
Version of it.
When you look back to the mid 1900s, the food guide was different than it is now.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of politics involved with the Canada Food Guide, depending on who has the most clout in business. So yeah, there's a lot to learn about that. In fact, you could even just Google, you know, the history of the Canada Food Guide, and you'd see the changes. And it's not necessarily the most ideal one that we have now. But Dave said something really important when we were getting ready to go today. He said, really, the bottom line of all this is do your own research. Keep learning, because this is really important. It's been said, here's another quote, that the best and cheapest way to restore your body's metabolism to its natural balanced state and regain your health is to eat right. So what does it mean to eat right? That's a matter of opinion, and even experts disagree about it. But there are some things that are pretty standard across the board. So you can start with those and, you know, try different things and see how you feel. My daughter is 40. My goodness, she's 40. And she knows that she feels best on a ketogenic diet. But they're on a really tight budget, and a ketogenic diet is more expensive than a high carb diet. So she doesn't get to do it quite as much as she would like to. And I know people who are doing really well on a high carb diet and not so good on a ketogenic diet. We'll talk about what those are in a minute. And my daughter said, well, that's because some people do good on this and some people do good on that. You have to try it to find out. You'd think that because we're all human beings, we'd all be the same. Pardon me? There
I'm
you
sorry,
are.
I just had to tell Nathan.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm glad you're back with us, Lynn. Yeah, we were talking about the ideal diet, and all we can do today is introduce some suggestions and introduce you to the different options that there are. And you really do need to try your own. But I would say probably the simplest thing to do is if you want whole health, you need to eat whole foods. Eat foods that are as close to nature as possible. And that doesn't mean, grass. And it doesn't mean, an octopus is nature. Well, maybe eating octopus is fine, but things that God put in our paths that are easy, like plants. Plants, everybody depends on plants. Even if you are a complete carnivore, or you only eat meat, you depend on plants because those animals eat plants. So the plants are the basis of the food chain. Now, Lynn, you had a question you were starting to ask and you kind of faded out and we lost you.
Yeah, it wasn't a question. It was just basically the thing that comes to mind for me is when I eat carbohydrates, I have to put protein with them because that lessens the level of sugar that is made from the carbohydrates. The protein counteracts that. So when I have pasta, I have meat sauce. When I have bread, I have meat, peanut butter, eggs, something to contradict the carbohydrate. So that's how I eat my meals, and I eat them in smaller portions throughout the day. That makes it a little bit easier.
And how do you feel on that, doing it that way? How do you
When I do it, I feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
I do have digestive issues, so I do have to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, it kind of really, there's a lot of personal differences between people, and you have to take that into account. I tend to have low blood sugar, so I have to be careful not to have too many carbohydrates at a time. But depends on what kind of carbohydrates you're talking about. Now, do people understand that there are really basically three food groups? There's protein, there's fats, and there's carbohydrates. That's it. There's only three things.
See, that right there, putting it in those terms makes things clearer to me.
Yeah, yeah. Now, some people would say there's a fourth one. It's fiber. It's none of those. That's none of the other three, but fiber is a necessary thing for good health. So, but the other three are fuels. Protein can be, see, there's good and bad of each of these things. There's protein. You could have a piece of steak that's been cooked on the barbecue, to be super well done, and it's all charcoaled. Like eating that would make you sick because of the way it's cooked. Fats, you could have peanut oil or even peanut butter that's gone rancid. And peanuts especially tend to have a lot of mold in them. So peanuts that's why peanuts are an allergen. Carbohydrates, you can have refined sugar, which is definitely not good for your health, but carbohydrates are in vegetables.
But
I mean, you gotta drive.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they're talking to each other. Okay.
yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Just wasn't sure. So there's a lot of things to think about with all of these. So it's almost overwhelming. So what I would like to suggest is a couple of things. The first is there's a simple thing that I came up with. I don't know if I can reach my sign here. It's been said by a man named, where did I say, Joseph Mercola. He was like a scientific guy. And he said that fruits and vegetables, they should be the main part of a diet. And a lot of people, they don't like fruits or vegetables. They weren't raised that way, and they get this idea that, hey, you're going to have to be a rabbit. No, you don't have to eat just those things, but they do need to be a part of everyone's diet. If you want to be healthy. If you don't want to be healthy, then just don't bother and you'll die sooner. That's all. But the simple way, I call it the favorite way. This is my acronym that I invented. That's how I spell favorite. FAVRET. And it stands for fruits and or vegetables, raw every time. Okay? So I don't know if you can see this. I made this for a presentation I did quite a long time ago. Fruits and or veggies, raw every time. So breakfast, lunch, supper, snacks. Before you have anything else, think, what's my favorite thing? Oh yes, fruits and or vegetables, raw every time. So with breakfast, have something raw. Typically, you'd probably choose a fruit for breakfast, but hey, you could have a raw vegetable or a steamed vegetable, I suppose, at breakfast time. For a snack, make sure you have something fruit or vegetable with it. When my kids were all at home, we had spaghetti night once a week. And if I let them eat spaghetti first, nobody wanted their salad afterwards because they just load up on spaghetti and they'd get too full. I don't have room for salad. So we had to make a rule. I made the rule. Salad first. If you don't eat your salad, you don't get spaghetti. So they did. They got their salads down, empty the bowl, and then they could have all the spaghetti they wanted. And I made sure they had a good serving of salad. Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Salad, good mix of things, or just not?
Well, no, it would be whatever I had. Yeah, like lettuce. A salad could have cabbage in it. All vegetables pretty well. And in fact, if we think about the colors that we eat when we're talking about fruits and vegetables, especially, it's like God has color coded our menu. The different colors mean there's different types of antioxidants and vitamins and things in them. And each color kind of targets a certain part of our body, certain organs. I haven't done any research on it. I've heard this, but it makes sense. Just eat all the different colors. Have, green salad, so put some carrots in with there. If you've got some red peppers or some radishes, purple cabbage, grapes. Have the different colors. If you're going to just eat one kind of fruit or one kind of vegetable, hey, it's better than nothing. But if you can mix it up a bit, that's even better. So that's one very simple suggestion, that every time you eat, have something fruit or vegetable raw every time. And the same Joseph Mercola said that if you have 7 servings of fruit or vegetable a day, so that's like 7 cups, I guess, depending on what kind it is. 7 cups of fruit or vegetable. A cup isn't that much. Like a cup of watermelon might be like 1 big piece at the most. Studies have been done. If people have 7 or more, or at least 7 servings of fruit or vegetables a day, it cuts their risk of dying from any cause by 42%. So it doesn't matter what it is, cardiovascular, dementia, like anything, that's how much these kinds of foods help. So if you can, go organic, because there's so many chemicals in things. If you can't, eat what you can. There is a website called EWG online, environmental something something, and they have what's called a list called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So the Clean 15 are the fruits and vegetables where, with standard farming, where they typically use pesticides and herbicides and things, fertilizers, they have the least amount of chemicals in them. So you don't have to waste your money on organic on these 15 because they're not bad. But the Dirty Dozen, they are the most toxic ones. And I'm sorry to say, but strawberries is #1. Strawberries are sprayed to death. Apples, I used to live beside an apple farm, and the guy was spraying every 2 weeks. And I was a teenager then, and the wind was blowing towards our way. So I'm told some of my hormonal issues may have stemmed from all that pesticide in the air. So you can look up the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15 or EWG to get a sense of what would be the best fruits or vegetables to maybe spend a little extra money on if you're going to go organic, because they do cost more, and what you don't need to. Avocados are the cleanest, most non-toxic fruit or vegetable there is. So you don't have to spend double or triple the cost for organic avocados. It's a waste. I'm sorry, sorry for the organic avocado growers, but it's really not necessary. Bananas are also good. Things with a thicker skin, I think, would probably be the best way to put it. Okay. As far as the protein and carbohydrate, it's true that protein takes more energy from the body to digest, because the body's got to break down the protein into all its different amino acids and then put it back together into a protein that your body can use. So you want to make sure you have I think there's 8 essential amino acids, and meats have all of them. So it's easy that way. Sadly though, meats, fish, dairy, eggs, things like that, when they metabolize in the body, when your body's breaking them down and rearranging them, it causes an acidic residue. And we have to also be aware of our acid-alkaline balance. The foods we eat all break down in our bodies through a process of metabolism, and it either results in an acidic residue or an alkaline residue. And the big problem is this society, especially now, tends to eat most things that cause an acidic residue. So our bodies are very acidic. And so our body doesn't like that. We all know what pH is, maybe. We took that in high school. There's the acid and the alkaline. We had a little litmus test, a little strip of paper. It would show it, I think it was red for acid and blue for alkaline. Our bodies need to be pretty close to neutral. I think just a little touch one way or the other. I forget which one it is. But most of us are too acidic because we eat a lot of refined carbohydrates and meats, especially, that give an acidic residue. Vegetables, most vegetables and fruits give an alkaline residue, and that counteracts the acidic that the other foods cause. If we're too acidic, our body says, oh, we've got to fix this, because if you're too acidic, you're going to die. So we need to buffer that acid with something alkaline like calcium. So it pulls the calcium out of the best place it can, which is our bones, and neutralizes that acid. Oh, okay. They finished having their acidic meal. We've got the calcium to buffer it now. But guess what? The bones are lacking calcium. And so when people drink cow's milk, and I know Dave disagrees with me on this, which is okay, but this is what I come to understand. When we drink cow's milk, first of all, cow's milk was made for baby cows, and human beings are the only creatures on earth who drink milk after we've been weaned. Once we have teeth, we don't need milk anymore. However, the promised land was the land of milk and honey, remember? So milk is like, it's a luxury, it's a treat. But the Milk Marketing Board says we need to have it every single day, because that way they can make more money. Anyway, that's another story. But if we drink milk, we're going to take it into our bodies. Yes, it has a lot of protein. It has a lot of calcium. But that protein metabolizes down and causes an acid residue. And the calcium, okay, we don't need to get calcium out of the bones quite as much, because the calcium from the milk will be used to buffer the acid that the protein caused. So we really don't have any more calcium from drinking cow's milk. I've heard that osteoporosis is highest in the countries where people drink the most milk. So what does that tell you? You can get a lot of calcium from dark leafy green vegetables, many nuts and seeds. There's a lot of things that we can get calcium from that don't leave that acid residue. So pH is a big thing. You can Google online acid alkaline foods and get different charts that tell you what is the most acidic and what's the most alkaline and in between, and try to focus on the things that are more alkaline. But that doesn't mean you can never have acidic stuff. They say 70 to 80% alkaline foods to 20 to 30% acidic foods. Now, one thing that's really maybe simple to understand is a lemon. A lemon is the most alkaline producing food there is. That's why people say drink lemon water, especially first thing in the morning. It cleans everything out. It's good for many things. But a lemon is acidic, isn't it? If you put lemon juice on a cut, it hurts because it's acid. But when it goes into your body, it reacts in such a way to cause a very alkaline environment, I guess would be the word. So it's not necessarily what you think because of what the food's alkaline or acid balance is. So I hope that hasn't confused everybody, but it is a part to keep in mind. And if you eat the favorite way, fruits and or vegetables raw every time, you're going to get a lot of alkaline producing foods in your diet. If you do that first, especially to get your hunger down, then when you're going to go eat, your bread or your meat or your milk, you've satisfied the first part of your hunger with the alkaline producing foods. Then you might not need to eat as much of the other, and it will sort of naturally move over into that direction as well. Any questions about all of that, or any other points or tips? We haven't even gotten into our discussions yet.
Sure, I could use a refresher on what you talked about.
Yeah.
Another point. So just
It's a lot.
basically,
Okay. Basically, don't stop learning. I mean, I tell you, I just looked through my library. I have the Healthy Living Handbook, the China Study. This is an awesome book. Well, this is the China Study cookbook. I had the actual China Study book, and I just had to get rid of some books a while ago, and I gave it to Goodwill. But I wish I kept it now. It's very scientific. It's about a man who was a researcher. I think he's from the States. I think his name was Colin Campbell. And he was asked to go to China to check out a situation where children were getting cancer at an alarming rate. So he went over there thinking it's got to be the poor class, the lower class people whose kids are getting this cancer. And when he got there, he found out it was the opposite. It was the more affluent people. Their children were getting cancer. So he, with a number of experiments and many questionnaires and information gathering, discovered that when people became more affluent, they started eating more the what they call the standard American diet, meats and sweets. And when they started eating that way, they got cancer. The kids got cancer. The parents, not so much, because the parents in their childhood had been raised with the poorer culture's diet, but these kids hadn't been, and they were getting cancer. And what he did an experiment with, I think it was mice. He was able to turn cancer on and off in these mice, depending on how much milk protein he gave them. So basically, animal protein is a switch that turns cancer on or off, depending on other factors as well. So he's very pro-vegetarian. If you want to be healthy, don't eat a lot of meat, if any. Like really, think about Jesus. How much meat did he eat? Or anybody in the first century? Maybe once a week? Well, they had a fatted calf, right? For a big special occasion, the prodigal son's father said, oh, my son's come back, kill the fatted calf, we got to celebrate. They didn't have meat every day. It was a treat. It was a special luxury. And so we don't need to have it every day. But I'm talking as a person who leans away from meat. Some people will disagree with me. You have to do your own research and try it out. However, another one I have is called the starch solution. This is a high carb diet. McDougall's program, it's also a high carb diet. There's one called the Maker's Diet. There's a lot out there. And please don't be overwhelmed. Just spend a little bit of time, maybe once a week or something, or I'm a book person. I'm not a one to look on the screen, but if I have this book laying beside my bed or on the coffee table, I'll pick it up and look at it once in a while, and it'll help me. So I'm going to move on here. If we don't have anything else, there are more things I want to talk about here, but we're going to move down to discussion. We want to do this every time. Now our discussion, we're going to get to the bottom. At the bottom of the homework page says, how can I be supported and help support others to develop and maintain healthier habits in the area of, in this case, nutrition. We'll get to that at the end of the class. But for discussion, I would like to ask some questions and get your feedback about the answers based on the Bible, history, science, and your experience. So it's one thing to say, well, I've heard this, but we need to back it up with something in scripture or something in history, something in science or in our own experience. So here are the questions. I'm going to put this here to cover up this part because I don't want to spoil the later part. The question is, why is it important? So in this case, why is nutrition important? I mean, we're talking about it like it's important, but why is it important? Any thoughts?
Because it has a direct effect on how long you're going to live.
Okay. I don't know if you all heard that. Dave said because it has a direct effect on how long you're going to live. Yes, for sure.
It's fuel for your body. It's how God designed your body to be fueled. And if you put the wrong things in, just like if you put the wrong kind of gasoline in your car or whatever, it could hurt. You could hurt yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's our fuel. That's right. And unlike a car with fuel, what we eat becomes our body. We are literally what we eat because the food goes in and it becomes absorbed, becomes broken down and rearranged and absorbed into our bloodstream. And the body is so amazing. The food becomes our body. The waste goes out. And you can, if you have a problem with drinking alcohol, you can stop drinking alcohol, never drink again, and you'll be fine. You know, if you have a problem with drugs, you can stop taking the drugs and you'll be fine. But if you have a problem with eating, you still have to eat because you'll die if you don't, die of starvation. We just have to know how to eat. That's the question, which is, we're going to get to that. And we're talking about that now. So yes, those are great reasons why we need to eat. And why nutrition, why knowing how to eat right. What is right eating? And as Dan mentioned, we're probably taught a lot of myths that we assume are correct, that are good to question. So there's a lot of information, especially nowadays online. Once again, I'm going to put a plug in for Barbara O'Neill. I think she's got a lot of good things to say. I don't agree with every single thing, which is not unusual. Nobody agrees with every single thing someone else says, but she's got a lot of good input. So I would encourage you to listen to her. Okay, so why is it important? For all those reasons. It's our fuel. It becomes our bodies and our minds. It affects our moods. What kind of nutrition? Now, we've already talked about that, but What kind? I think we've talked a lot about that already. Maybe, Dan, could you play Anna's video? So Anna couldn't be here with us today. She was all ready to present this last week and she can't come today. So she's made a video about her experience and her knowledge about nutrition, the way she's been handling it.
Hello, my name is Anna, and when I was 10 years old, I decided I did not want to eat animals, so I went vegetarian. Around 2008, I was inspired by my sister-in-law, Sarah, and a co-worker to go all the way and go vegan. So I cut out the dairy and the eggs. I'm so glad I did. Before that, as long as I can remember, I always had a stuffy nose. I would keep boxes of Kleenex beside me in every room. I still do out of habit, but now I don't need them anymore. It's amazing. I know now it was the dairy. Now I follow a plant-based vegan diet. I try to avoid processed food and limit my salt, oil, and sugar. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine says a plant-based diet consists of exclusively plants, including fruit, vegetables, grains, and legumes, and avoids meat and dairy and eggs. Plant-based foods are full of fiber, rich in vitamins and minerals, free of cholesterol, and low in calories and saturated fat. Eating a variety of these foods provides all the protein, calcium, and other essential nutrients your body needs. It's important to include a reliable source of vitamin B12 in your diet. You can easily meet your vitamin B12 needs with a daily supplement or fortified foods such as B12 fortified breakfast, plant milks, and nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is my favorite. Those who eat a plant-based diet lower their risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and other health conditions. Protein, an important nutrient that helps build, maintain, and repair body tissue, is widely available in beans, vegetables, and grains. Protein deficiency is almost unheard of in the United States. Some examples that I like are tofu, broccoli, chickpeas, lentils, and quinoa. Calcium. Leafy green vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, and collards are loaded with calcium. Beans, fortified juices, and plant milks are also great sources of calcium, and calcium absorption of leafy green vegetables is actually higher than cow's milk. Vitamin C from citrus fruits, tomatoes, peppers, and other fruits and vegetables is essential for making collagen and connective tissue that minerals cling to when bone is formed. Vitamin K is thought to stimulate bone formulation. It is found most abundantly in dark leafy greens like kale and spinach, but is also readily available in beans, soy products, and some fruits and vegetables. Potassium decreases the loss of calcium from the body and increases the rate of bone building. Oranges, bananas, potatoes, and other fruits, vegetables, and beans are all rich sources of potassium. Magnesium, like calcium, is an important bone mineral. Studies have shown higher magnesium intakes to be associated with stronger bones. Beans and greens, legumes, and green leafy vegetables are excellent sources of magnesium. Vitamin D is another important component for strong bones. The natural source of vitamin D is sunlight. Our skin makes vitamin D when exposed to sun. 5 to 15 minutes of midday sun exposure can be enough to meet many people's vitamin D needs. Plant-based diets lead to weight loss. Even without exercise or calorie counting, although exercise is important, replacing high-fat foods with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes naturally reduces calorie intake. I follow Dr. Neil Barnard, and he's the founder of the Physicians Committee, and he's written many books, including his latest, The Power Foods Diet. And I also follow Dr. John McDougall. He wrote the book, The Starch-Based Solution, which is the diet that I mostly try to follow. And he says we can eat mostly starches like rice, beans, and potatoes, along with vegetables and fruit, no oil. Chef AJ, she's written many books, including The Ultimate Weight Loss Diet. She interviews interesting people who follow a plant-based diet and has cooking demos on YouTube. And I also follow Plentiful Kiki. She's lost 70 pounds following the starch solution. She's on YouTube and Instagram, and she has 2 cookbooks, one called Plentifully Lean. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Anna. So there's a interesting option of someone that we see every week. Interestingly, Linda Langdon, who most of you know, she was hoping to be here today, but was unable to, has found great success with the ketogenic diet, which is somewhat opposite to what Anna was describing. Ketogenic diet is a low carb diet and high protein and high fat, which seems strange because you'd think, if it's a high fat diet, how am I supposed to lose weight on that and be healthy at the same time? Well, it depends on the kind of fat you're talking about. High fat olive oil, nuts or seed butters, and coconut oil. Those are the ones that I believe that she would recommend. So I'm just going to read her notes. She was unable to join us. And she says, you can look up all kinds of ketogenic diets online, but the easiest one that she could do, because she's on a very limited income as well, she says it's called dirty keto because it's not perfect, but you do the best you can with what you've got. It says, she wrote down, without concern for food quality, you don't have to count anything but your carbs. You don't have to buy grass-fed beef. You don't have to buy organic fruits and vegetables. You don't have to eat only almond butter. You can have peanut butter, but only the peanut butter that has no sugar, obviously, because you're keeping it out of carbs. You don't want the carbs. You want the oils and the nuts and seeds. Instead of potatoes, have cauliflower or radishes, because potatoes, bread, rice, things like that are high carb foods. They're healthy in many ways, but for the ketogenic diet, you want to replace those with low carb alternatives. There's a number of ketogenic breads available in the stores. They're quite expensive. I remember I picked them up for her a few times because I do some shopping for her sometimes. It's like $9 for this little frozen loaf of bread, but it's very filling, she says. And when she's on the keto diet, she loses weight like that. When she can't afford some of the things that she needs, she gains weight and she doesn't feel as good. Keep carbs as infrequent as possible. For example, if you go through a drive-through and you order a hamburger, you don't have to have the bun. Say, I don't want the bun, and you just get a knife, plastic knife and fork, and you eat it with a knife and a fork. Any restaurant will do that. Keto usually consists of high fat, but she did this many years ago with the high fat, and she gained 20 pounds. So she changed it, and she reduced the fat. She uses olive oil to cook with, and also coconut oil sometimes. She said while she was losing the biggest portion of her weight, she did not eat desserts. Even though there are many keto bars and desserts and ice creams available, you're best to stick with healthy whole foods. Then she started talking about intermittent fasting. So I don't know if we want to talk about fasting today because we have enough to talk about just about nutrition. But I know Anna wanted to talk about fasting also. So we might save the fasting for another time. Because fasting, in a sense, is also part of nutrition. Because when we get to the next question, when do we eat? Fasting can come into that picture. Okay, before we do any more, does anybody have anything else they want to say about what kind of foods, what kind of diets? There are many choices, and this is a thing. God gives us so many blessings, but we have to pick which ones we want because we can't do them all. And the world gives us so many choices that are not healthy, but they're saying we need them. So we need to actually look into it and find out, do we need them? Yes, Dan?
It seems to me that because there are different diets that do work, the common denominator of all of them is not eating the obviously terrible for you stuff. Like that is definitely the place to start.
Yeah.
If that's not.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like me, just beginning to learn and just, trying to inch my way forward in learning.
Yeah.
But, just stop eating junk food at the very least.
That's a simple thing, yes. And really, when it comes to eating, it's such a personal thing. Like, think about it. What was the first test God gave humanity? Don't eat the fruit from that one tree. You got all these other trees, but don't eat that one. And they did, because I don't know, what we choose to eat becomes who we are. And there's a psychological thing, there's emotions involved with eating. Some particular foods remind us of happy memories in the past, and we want them because, like ice cream, I used to go out for ice cream with my dad, and he's gone now, and we always went to this place. Or the other way around, I don't want to eat beets because every time I had beets on the table, my mom made me eat them and I didn't like that. So I never did acquire a taste because this bad memory was there. So there's a lot involved with eating. So yes, small baby steps is the best way to anything. So try not to do too much at once, but do one thing. And this brings us back to our main question that I introduced the first class about the total load concept. Ask yourself one question over and over and over and over again. What one thing can I do right now to reduce my total load? So if you're about to eat something, or if you're starting to get hungry, or you just finished eating something, what one thing can I do now? Well, if you're about to eat something, look at what it is and say, oh, I forgot my fruit or vegetable. I better go get that. If you've just finished eating, you could say, okay, I'm full now. This is the best time for me to plan my next meal. When you're not hungry. This is the time to go grocery shopping when you're not hungry. Because when you're not hungry, you make better choices for the future. Things like that. So one thing, just do one thing. And so, yeah, cutting out junk food. If junk food is something you know is something you do on a regular basis, cut it out. Even if it's just one part, like coffee. Coffee isn't terrible, but if you have a lot of it and there's sugar in it and there's cream in it, there's something you could do to change that. Were you going to say something, Dave? Okay, you look like you were going to say something. So that's an example. Or if it's donuts or anything that you choose that you say, I think it would be better if I didn't have this. But psychologically, it's always good to have something to replace it. Instead of leaving a void, say, instead of eating that, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to have an apple, or something that you feel you could stick with, that you could use as a replacement. So you're not just having this emptiness there. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be food. It could be something else. I'm going to watch a video about nutrition, something, instead of eating something that you don't want to eat. Was someone going to say something? I thought I heard something there. No? Are you with us still? Elaine, because I'm doing all the talking and I don't want that. I want somebody else to talk. Okay.
Okay, I think I was muted. I'm not sure. I was just letting everyone know I left my lunch at home, so now I'm not eating my lunch.
Can you get popcorn without the artificial butter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, maybe maybe there's, I don't know what there is around where you work, but yeah, you have to find something. See if you can find a fruit or a vegetable.
Yeah.
Dandelion leaves are good for you, despite, just so you know. Go in the ditch and look for the dandelion. Oh dear. Yeah. So yeah, when you're on your way to work, what one thing can I do? I can remember my lunch.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to tell somebody at home to put my lunch in the fridge, otherwise
Yes.
it's not gonna
Oh,
be any good.
dear.
But
Oh, too
and
bad.
also I did that Atkins diet, which is similar to the Linda's.
Oh, yes, okay.
Protein and fats.
Yes.
It didn't work out too good for me.
What happened?
And I got very bored at not eating any carbohydrates. So I just went back to eating a little bit of everything in moderation to try to figure out, I do probably need to eat more of those fruits and vegetable thingies.
Mhm.
But yeah, I did try that and it didn't work out for me. But you always have to be trying new things and seeing what does work.
Right, right. And don't be afraid to try something like when it comes to fruits and vegetables, there are so many to choose from. And we have so many available to us now. I read in a book recently a challenge to people who don't like fruits or vegetables. Buy one new fruit or vegetable every week and try it. You just might like it. And stop telling yourself, I don't like fruits and vegetables. I don't like this healthy food. Because what you say becomes what you think. What you think becomes what you say. And life and death is in the power of the tongue when we talk to ourselves that way. So say, oh, this is yummy. This is interesting. I'm not sure how I like this, but try something different. Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's move on. When should we eat? Here's a question.
It's 2:29, just, that doesn't
Oh.
mean you can't keep going.
Okay, okay. We'll speed up a little bit. Okay, when should we eat? Any ideas?
When you're hungry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you're hungry?
During the day.
During the day, yeah, yeah. Well, if we want to sleep at night, our bodies can rest better when they're not busy digesting. Because digesting is hard work. It's a lot of work for the body to digest. So some people say 3 meals a day. Most people, I don't know who most people are, but a lot of people have, no breakfast at all. And they drink, their coffee and whatever to keep them going. But ideally, you want to have food, not stimulants to get you going in the morning. A lunch of some kind and a supper sometime. Some people say, no, well, eat breakfast like a king. Have a big breakfast. Doesn't mean super, like too big, but have a good sized breakfast. Breakfast like a queen, another good sized breakfast, and supper like a pauper. And sometimes paupers don't eat. So make sure you get, half of your nutrition at breakfast, half of your nutrition at lunch. And if you don't have supper, you'll live. You've had 2 good meals with half of your nutrition for the day. Another thing to remember too is snacking. Some people really push, eat a little bit every 2 hours as opposed to a lot at once. And it really depends on the person's digestive abilities. But you want to work towards eating your breakfast and your lunch and nothing in between. Because when you're digesting proteins and carbs and fats and fibers, it takes time. And the way I understand that it works, we put the food in our mouth, it goes down to our stomach. Our stomach is acid. It's the only part of the body that has a lot of acid in it. And it's doing its job in there. And there's a little gate at the beginning and at the end of the stomach. So it goes down in there, the gate opens to let the food in. The gate at the bottom is closed because it wants that food to be completely digested with the acid before it lets it into the small intestine. So, but it takes a couple hours to do that, at least. So by the time it's almost ready to go, the gate's ready to open. Oh, they decided to have a snack. Well, there's some undigested food in there now. Okay, keep the gate closed. We got to digest that new food now. And so the old food is there waiting to go through, but it can't because the new food's mixed in with it. And either the gate's going to open because it just is too full and undigested food moves into the rest of the body, or it doesn't move through and you have acid reflux and you have all these other problems. So I used to eat every couple of hours for my low blood sugar. And I've changed doing that now. I now try to put at least 4 hours, if not more, between meals. And it feels different because I'm empty. I'm not hungry, but I'm empty, but I just had to get used to that feeling. My blood sugar doesn't dive because I'm eating more lentils and fats and things that keep me going, my blood sugar steady. But it's a thing to try. I tried it and it's working for me. I really like it. But if my blood sugar starts to dive and it's only been 2 hours, hey, I'll have a little glass of juice or something. But try to make it small. Yeah.
I think getting used to the feeling of having an empty stomach is a huge, like, people need to try that.
Yes.
Like for a lot of people, it's just a weird, like, this doesn't feel right.
Yes.
You won't get hurt, you won't die.
Yeah.
Just see if you can get used to it, because
Mhm.
it's not a bad thing. It's good for you, for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll expand upon that when we talk about intermittent fasting, but
Exactly. That's right. It's also good because your stomach needs a rest once in a while. It does the hard work all the time. You got to give it a little break. So give it some time to have a little rest between the meals before you start loading it up again. And then at night, of course, many people have heard don't eat after 7 o'clock at night. And that's a good idea so that your stomach can empty before you go to bed. A lot of people eat a big meal and then they lay down and yeah, you fall asleep right away, but your digestion doesn't work so good that way. Okay, let's move along. How? Oh, wait, where? Sorry, we're at where? Where do we eat? In front of the computer? On the car? In the car? When we're having an argument with somebody? Of course not. Ideally, when in a low stress, familiar place. Ideally with people we love. Not always possible, but when we're stressed out or really focused on something else, we're not focused on our eating. And so we're not doing it as well as we could. We're not digesting as well as we could. So it's just a matter of making that priority. I like to read at breakfast and lunch. Dave and I don't eat breakfast or lunch together. We eat supper together. So breakfast or lunch, I like to read. I've got our daily bread devotional at breakfast time. I have something else at lunchtime. But I try to focus on my eating as well, as opposed to tasting my food and really chewing it well. But at supper time, we talk. That's what we like to do. And that's good for a lot of reasons other than just physical, but emotional as well. Okay, and how? How do we eat? Well, of course, we chew it. We chew our food, right? How many of you heard chew your food 30 times before you swallow it?
I never really understood. Like, how
do you do that?
do that?
Okay, okay. Same, I've heard this many times and I've said, okay, I'm going to chew my food because I know my digestion could be better. And it wasn't until I heard Barbara O'Neill explain why. Now I understand. This makes it I can do it more now because of what she explained. She said, when you put solid food in your mouth, your stomach is not a blender. It needs to be chewed up and ground up as much as possible. Your saliva is your first digestive enzyme. You need to mix that with your food. So if you just gulp it down, it's in big chunks, you don't have much saliva working on it. So that's number one. Another thing is, if you leave it in your mouth, you're busy chewing it, somehow it sends a message to your brain and says, oh, this person's got broccoli in their mouth. And the brain sends a message to the belly and says, broccoli's coming. And so they get the digestive enzymes ready for broccoli or meat or potatoes or whatever it is you got coming down. They're ready for it. You've got saliva in it, you've chewed it well, and it comes down and it's received with the proper enzymes, I guess. If you just scarf it down, the stomach says, hey, something's coming. What is it? The brain says, I don't know. They just didn't have time. I just couldn't find out. So just, digesting by the seat of their pants. So there's a saying, drink your solids and chew your liquids, which means chew your solids so much that you end up drinking it down. You're not going to have chunks going down. You're going to have a liquid going down. Of course, your saliva is going to sort of trickle down as you go along, but don't let the chunks go down. Chew them well. And when you drink something, let's say a smoothie, okay? Water, you don't really have to put saliva with because it's just water. But anything, a juice or a smoothie, something with nutrition in it, put it in your mouth. You don't have to chew it because it's a liquid. You could just guzzle it. But same thing, your body needs to know what's in it. You want to put the saliva with it. So put it in your mouth, swish it around, enjoy the taste. It takes longer to eat. You'll feel satisfied sooner. Then swallow it down and then do it again. It just makes so much sense to me how, the brain needs to tell the tummy what's coming. We need to put the saliva with it, whether it's a solid or a liquid. So drink your solids and chew your liquids. Crazy as that sounds.
Inspired to let this be, let's let this be the one thing I can change.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm gonna try to chew more slowly and more.
Yeah, and try to enjoy the taste and the textures because we miss that when we don't spend time doing that. So there's our how. All right, so now we're going to quickly go to an action plan. It's great to talk about all this, but what are we going to do? So the action plan is number 1, always ask yourself, what can I do right now to lighten my total load? And in the area of nutrition, pick one thing that we talked about so many things today. Pick one and focus on that for a while. And when that becomes a habit, you'll naturally think of, okay, what one other thing can I do? Because I don't have to think about that one anymore. It's a habit. Another thing we could do is put forward to ourselves a short or a long-term goal. Now, how many of you have heard of SMART goals? Anybody? Elaine or Lynn?
No.
Almost certain.
Elaine says no. Okay, SMART goals. I don't know if you can see this. It's kind of small. It's another acronym. We got a lot of acronyms in this class. The SMART goal is one that is specific. So you're going to say, okay, let's say your goal, someone's goal is to lose 20 pounds or to lose weight. That's it. That's your common New Year's resolution, right? I'm going to lose weight. Well, make it SMART. Make it specific. Okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. Make it measurable. So measurable, well, in something like that, you step on a scale, So you're going to mark down what your starting weight is and what your goal weight is. And it's easy to measure because it's weight. Other goals may be different. Like you say, I'm going to chew my food more. Okay, how do you make that SMART? I'm going to, for me, what I would do, because I'm the kind of person, I would have a list. I would have a little note on the table. Did I chew my food better today at breakfast? Check mark or X. And then, put a happy face or a sad face or something. And, oh, I didn't do very good at the last one. I'm going to do better at this one. Something specific so you can see it. Measurable, action-oriented, something that you have to do. So you have to make a choice of what things you're going to do to accomplish that. So action. What was R? I forgot what R was. Realistic. That's right. Realistic. Don't say I'm going to lose 100 pounds by next week. Oh, not realistic, reliable. Realistic. It has to be realistic, doable, and time bounded. Give yourself a time to accomplish your goal, even if you have to extend it later. I'm going to lose 20 pounds by 3 months from now. Dave's daughter last summer was 39 years old, and her birthday was in October. And she made a goal of losing 40 pounds by her 40th birthday. We didn't know anything about it till we saw her a couple months later. And you look different. She goes, yeah, I've been losing weight. and she was on Weight Watchers, and she reached her goal. She lost over 40 pounds by her birthday, her 40th birthday. And we just saw her the other day. She's now down 85 pounds. She was a big girl, and she's got some more to lose, but I could hardly recognize her. She made a goal. She did an action. It was measurable. She joined Weight Watchers. It's now an app you can get on your cell phone, so you don't have to go to meetings. Of course, you can cheat if you want to, but it's working for her. It's great. And it was realistic. She didn't expect to lose too much weight too fast, and she's doing it in a healthy way. She feels good, and it was time bounded. She set her goal, and now she's continuing on. I don't know what her, next goal is that she set, but it's that is a smart goal, time bounded. So if you choose to make a specific goal, short-term or long-term, make it SMART, specific, measurable, with an action that's realistic and time-bounded. Okay, and we'll finish off with the end of the homework today, which is how can I be supported or help support others to develop and maintain healthier habits in the area of nutrition? Any suggestions?
Maybe this would get too personal, but I think that we should each do a SMART goal, and maybe not on the live stream, but like, after church on Sunday or sometime soon, share it with one another and keep each other accountable.
Yeah. And
Not in a bad way,
yeah, no, in a good way. Yeah, have an accountability group or person. A number of months ago, I went to the Freedom in Christ ladies group, and I was the one presenting the devotional. And I was the only one from Glad Tidings that went at the time. So nobody knows about this else. And I talked about how when we expect company in our homes, what's the first thing I do? I clean my house, because I don't want them to see how I really live, right? Even though it's not that bad, I want it to be better. And we need to do that because Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming, and we got to clean up our lives, because we don't want him to find us the way we are. We want to be better than this. And so we talked about house cleaning. And I was really disappointed the next time I went there, because nobody asked me how my house cleaning was going. It's like, I wish someone would have asked me, because I was doing really good. So we need to ask each other. So how's your goal coming along? So that's great. The Weight Watchers is what worked for Dave's daughter. Any kind of support group like that, but if we can do our own, that's even better. So
just to make sure I have this correct, specific, measurable, action, realistic and time bound.
yes, yep.
Okay,
That's our SMART goal. Yep, and that works for every type of goal, not just in nutrition, but any goal. If you're planning you're planning a family picnic, I want to have a family picnic that's, on this such and such a date with these people, and I want it to be this long, and I want these things to be there, and then you work towards it all. There's anything can fit into a SMART goal, so we can make it work for our diets, for our nutrition as well. Okay, so there was a lot to talk about today, so I'm sorry if we've gone a bit over time, but this was a big subject, and I think that's why it's number one in the acronym, because it's so important. The others are important too, but nutrition impacts us, I think, almost more than the others. Okay, so let's finish off with a closing prayer. And Dave, would you like to do closing prayer? Okay, go ahead. Nice and loud, please.
Give thanks to you, Father, for bringing us together and studying the word. Not studying the words so much as the results of that. We ask that you bring us to an understanding of how to approach this and do what's needed. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone. Oh, and your homework for next week is fill out the pages for exercise and water. In case we, finish the exercise portion and we move into the water. So if you get those two ready, we'll be good to go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? There was one more thing.
Sure.
Paul had asked if we could do it in the evening sometime.
Oh, okay.
And so I checked with the others who said evenings could work. And really only Dave and Jen could commit to next Tuesday night. I haven't asked Paul if next Tuesday night works for him,
Sure.
but if it does, we might want to, if we could move even just that one to the evening for his sake. I mean, no one else is coming in person here anyway.
Yeah.
And the online, hopefully can also come at that time or watch it later. So I'll find out about that before Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, Elaine. Bye, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Bye. I don't know, is Lynn still with us?
Yeah, she's in her car.
Oh, okay. Okay, there's no green light. Oh, I guess I don't need a green light for her. We'll get a green light for both of them there. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Elaine. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.